Happy Thanksgiving, guys. Nah, I'm just kidding. I know I'm not retarded.
Are you?
I'm pretty sure I'm not.
Are you?
I might be a sociopath, but I'm not retarded.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Anyways, happy Thanksgiving, guys.
You mean Easter?
Yeah, Easter. Happy Easter. That was the joke.
Are you sure?
Yeah, thanks for ruining my punchline. Let's just start. Let's just start. Anyways, what are we talking about today?
Today we're going to be talking about something that's really sensitive.
Yeah.
And fortunately we can't get into it. Like, we can't be humorous, we can't be funny as much.
Yeah.
And we would like you to understand that, because today we're going to be talking about grief and about loss.
Yeah, because there's been so many incidents recently where people who are close to us and just other people in general who have lost so many people to the pandemic and to just complications of health because of COVID. So we thought it would be a good idea to make an episode about loss and grief.
Yeah, it only makes sense because, as Cyrus rightfully said, because of the whole COVID-19 situation and the millions of people who've lost their lives, it only makes sense to put this video out because we need people to know, we need people who've lost loved ones to know that they're not alone, that we're with them. And through this episode or through this podcast, we would like to just share our thoughts with them.
We're going to share our thoughts, as well as we do have a live example in front of you guys today. A person who has suffered a lot of loss and has gone through a lot of grief, and how you can attain success even if it feels like the world is meaningless now and it feels like you are alone. But that's not the case. There's always going to be your friends and family who are going to be there to support you. And we do have a live example of that today.
So we sat down with Mansi Arora, and as Cyrus rightfully said, we're going to be talking to her about her experiences with loss, with grief, and yeah, let's see what she thinks about it.
Lying, but okay.
What do you mean by lying?
No lying, I'm lying. I'm not good. Because today a friend's mom passed away and it brought on all the trauma I had. It was a friend from college and her mom was hospitalized due to some complications, and then she passed away because cardiac arrest and stuff. And that brought forward a lot of things I knew I had suppressed from my own mom's passing. I don't know how she looked like. I don't even know her name. But yeah, sort of. She was a close friend. But the thing is, what happened, the instance which happened triggered something in my own brain, which I knew I had been ignoring.
I don't even know what to say, Mansi. I mean, I'm really sorry. But could you at least tell us at some level, could you relate to your friend in some way?
Yeah, I totally relate to her. And it took me back to the time when my own mom died and the feelings I was feeling at that time. And I felt like I had a small, like the whole morning I had a small revisitation of those feelings. I did call her to check up on her, and she's dealing with it how everyone deals with it at first, right? Because you're numb at first. You cry, but you don't really realize the magnitude of the feelings you're about to feel. You realize as you go back into, because for us Hindus and stuff, the first, I'd say, 20 days are hard because there's a lot of pujas, right? And so you kind of keep distracting yourself with these guests.
Because of the religious aspect of it.
Yeah, you distract yourself and all the relatives come and see, so you have to sort of be strong and sort of, I'd say, put up a facade even, because you don't want to cry. Yeah, you don't want to cry, right? Especially if you're like an older child, you want to be able to take care of everyone. But as you begin your daily life, you start to understand that this whole person, an important person from my family, is missing, and I didn't understand the value, how she was placed in this family until she was not here.
We then asked her about the responsibilities she had to shoulder after her mom had passed away.
in the start, it was really confusing. I knew I had to be there for him because he was, I'd say, barely 12, 13 years old, right? So I had to deal with him. I had to make sure he wasn't massively affected by what people were saying, how the instant shock, I wanted to sort of guard him from that, right? So I tried to do that as much as possible because obviously you don't want someone to cry, right? It was numb at first, right? And for him, it was a lot of stress on me because I had to look after my dad as well as him. And I was still like 16. I was just a teenager. And while I've had the responsibility of looking after a sibling, I sort of had to be in place, sort of a temporary mom. Yeah, a larger role which I didn't know how to do, which others kept telling me to do. So there was the stress of that.
The person referred to in this audio clip is actually Mansi's younger brother Manas, who was 12 or 13 at the time of their mother's death.
At start, he was sad. So while the processions and everything were going on, he was in his room on the laptop and he was just numbing himself with the games. So it went on for longer than I'd imagined. So 6 months later, when we sort of took away his laptop and stuff, that's when he had all these feelings. I think that would apply to me too, but in an earlier timeline. So I think grief is like a super multifold process, right? And it includes a lot of emotions. So first, I think it's subjective to everyone. So first for me, it was numbing. So numbing also includes a lot of denial. The realization that something so huge, such a massive change has occurred for the bad in your life, for negative in your life, right? Then comes the anger. Why did this happen? And then I think anger was a very short phase for me. And soon after came the sadness, the crying till you can't stop, till your eyes hurt sort of thing. And then you sort of get back to your routine. For a while, I was depressed. Like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to move on with my life. And then I started getting into her closet, feeling things out, seeing what she left. What did all this mean? What was I supposed to do? I felt very clueless. I didn't know what to do. And then I slowly started to understand okay, now this is the role I have. I'm never going to be her. I'm not going to be the same person just as a older sister. So slowly I did understand that. But it mostly does include like a lot of sadness. So within a month that my mom passed, I met almost everyone I know. I talked a lot about it with my friends, with my family, with everyone, and I didn't cry as much. Till date, I think I've only cried 4 or 5 times properly about like missing her, And then I started sort of developing some sort of depression, which was basically ignoring things, not caring, just sleeping a lot, eating a lot. And then I got sick soon after. I had like dengue. Yeah, so talking was my coping mechanism. I did talk with my uncle he's not a therapist, but he's a trainer, he's a coach, right? So I talked with him, so he helped me a bit. It was just meeting a lot of people. And then in that process, I sort of numbed my own feelings. So it was very superficial, right? Because friends don't really know what to say when such a big thing has happened, right? So I didn't meet a lot of people, and I did share with them how it happened. But I still had this facade where I was telling them I'm okay, and I still do that sometimes. I make a joke about it, or I talk about it like it did not impact me much, right? But that's just because I didn't really want to face it, because when that sort of when those emotions overflow, they just don't stop, right? So my social life with friends was they were there for me, and I knew that, but some things you just have to go through by yourself. My family was sort of pressurizing me to, not directly, but they were still concerned, right? For us family, they were concerned. So they were like, no, now you have to take up new responsibilities. You have to look after your brother. You have to manage your father and his health, because obviously he has lost the love of his life, right? But I think in the process they didn't realize that even I have lost out on an important person. So I felt like whenever it came to family, I tried to distance them from me. When it came to friends, it was superficial. And then when it came to my mom's friends, I felt really compelled to sort of have a connection with them. And at start, it did help because I started finding out more things about her through them, right? And because I was just 16, I wasn't always consciously paying attention to my family all the time, right? Because I think at that stage I was more concerned with school, or college had just started, or myself, or friends. So I didn't consciously pay a lot of attention to her, and I do regret that a bit. So I started talking to her friends, and I felt like in that process they were also trying to know more about her through me. And then it became, I wouldn't say toxic, it just became very weird, because after a while you just don't know what to say to them.
So Mansi was talking about how her friends and family, they expected her to have a lot of responsibility. Well, they didn't expect her, but she felt like she had to become a stand-in mother, as she said, for Manas, her younger brother.
And then she also goes on to explain how when her mother passed away, she kept talking to people, her uncle, she even talked to her brother whenever he was ready to talk, and mostly her friends. I think I can understand that her friends do not really know what she must be going through, or the experiences that she must be going through. So because I remember it was, I think, Diwali. It was the day of Diwali, and I was hanging out at the mall with one of our friends called Sahil, and we were hanging out, and we were just like chilling in the food court. We were just talking about stuff, and then he picks up a call, and his face just dies, and then he looks at me, and he puts the phone down. He says, "Dude, Mansi's mom just passed away," and I did not know how to react. I don't know what to say. I just told him, you know what, we'll meet in the evening, we'll go to her place. I don't care what's going to happen.
Wow, I did not know this happened. That is crazy.
Yeah.
I cannot even begin to imagine what you guys must have felt like at that time, and what Mansi must have felt like at that time.
We just wanted to be there for her, we didn't want her to feel alone, and it must be a really confusing time for her.
Of course.
There's a lot going on in one's mind when someone that's so close to you, so close to the family.
Mother.
Exactly. Someone who takes care of so much responsibilities, takes care of the whole family, keep the glue of the family, just passes away. So it's really hard.
Then in the next segment, we ask her about stress and how she had friends and family to cope with it.
It did put a lot of stress on me, because especially with my brother, I was now forced to be sort of the bad guy, sort of the strict one. Before all this, me and my brother were like best friends. We didn't really have a lot of problems. We would fight occasionally, and now I had to sort of look after him, be strict, right? Because my dad was dealing with his own issues, so I felt like, no, I should at least look after myself and him. Right? So I felt like I had to be strict with him, and then he had a lot of anger. He had also repressed his feelings, so that came out to me, right? So I think for almost an year, our relationship was like very frail, very fragile. We didn't talk. We distanced ourselves from each other. The trust wasn't there anymore. We fought on a daily basis. So that put a lot of stress on me emotionally. Physically, the stress of doing household chores. I didn't know how to cook back then, so I had to sort of train the maids, and my grandmom was there, right? So she helped me a lot, but then she also had to go back to her home. So looking after the maids, dealing with my own exams, right? The pressure of exams was a lot. I didn't know how to cope with it. Just looking after the house, it doesn't feel like much, but you don't even know what she used to do, and you're trying to figure out what she used to do, and you're trying to do them. And when those things aren't done, you realize, oh, the clothes aren't washed, or oh, someone has to do the dishes, or oh, there's dust on the table. There were some things. First, I did get into some self-deprecating things, like not eating at all, because I felt nauseous all the time, right? Even today, I felt super nauseous after hearing that someone died. So I would stop eating, but then I would cope by working out a lot, because working out is really cathartic, right? It's a release of stress and emotions. And then I remember that my mom was really into spirituality. And when she used to see all these self-help, motivation, spiritual videos, not in the religious sense, right? She used to see all these videos, and I started getting into those. And at first, it was my method, my way of understanding her. But in the process, I found my love for spirituality and energy and how to become the best version of yourself. So I started getting into meditation, yoga, all those things. So that helped.
From this point onwards, we started talking about spirituality and how she was a better person from this experience, and how she tried to become a better version of herself, and how she just coped with everything, and what was her life afterwards.
Yeah, I don't remember a time when I wasn't like this. That's the thing. I realized I wasn't conscious. I wasn't as present. I was not as considerate. I was just not living. I was just in survival mode. I was just existing. Yeah, so I definitely came out stronger mentally and physically. And I realized that in the process, I found who I was, because I had really unhealthy coping strategies. I did not value people around me as much. I did not, I had a lot of like family fights before that. We as a family came out stronger. We started expressing our love to each other. And I think that's really important, because you don't know when you're going to see a person for the last time. I don't know what I would have done if I were the same person 2 years ago. Yeah, I don't think I would have loved my life. I don't know how I would have lived if I were that person. Seeing it was and is still traumatic, and I think that's the only issue I have not resolved yet, right? Because it's very dramatic, but those flashes of the hospital come in my head, and I definitely started taking care of my body more. I started valuing sleep, good food, good nutrition, working out, being healthy, just loving, just a lot of self-acceptance. And I realized that every opportunity I get, if I really feel like it, I should take it. I should pay attention to myself and my family. I should love them, basically. It changed my outlook on life, because I mean, not that life is short, right? But it is limited. I realized that.
So we decided to revisit a couple of old memories of our mom and dad, and yeah.
My mom and dad were like a living rom-com, because they met in college, and they actually sort of eloped from their parents. Their parents didn't really approve of their marriage, and so they eloped and they got married, and then they moved into, my mom moved into my dad's house, and they were just perfect. They are perfect for each other. And I saw that miss out from his life, because my dad was with my mom since his 20s, and he didn't know how to live without her, right? Because this particular person who's with you affects and takes all the important in any decision of life with you, and he didn't know how to do that. And then his life started sort of getting more monotonous. He started getting into sports like I did. So he would go every day, he'd play badminton in the mornings, table tennis at night. And to be honest, my dad doesn't have a lot of friends. He has a small circle, right? It doesn't help. So he just hung out with those few people and just did sports. So like me, it was very superficial. And still yet, he just stays in his room all day. And he says often that the only reason he's still here is to look after me and Manas. So I think he's lost his reason for living.
That was a really deep and meaningful conversation we just had, and obviously we got to learn a lot about Mansi and her life, and we decided to ask her for a final message that she might have for people out there who are suffering or who are listening and going through the same things that she is going through.
I think firstly, grief is not comparable. Even if it's your mother, grandmother, a pet, it's just not comparable, because you still do feel it. Secondly, like I told my friend today who lost her mom, it gets better from now on. You don't have to get better immediately, but it will get better soon. And you are allowed to be sad or angry.
So that was a conversation we decided to have with Mansi, and I feel like it was the right decision and the right moment to talk about things like this. And obviously, in today's world, in the world we're living in right now with the pandemic, I hope people find this podcast well, and I hope they can listen to it, and I hope they can work out the problems, and I hope they find a solution to whatever they're going through, just like Mansi did, just like Siddharth did, just like I did.
I want to confess right now and say that someone close to me just passed away yesterday, and we received the sad news. But it's sad. It's sad when you have those memories with that person, where you spend so much time with them, when it wasn't even yesterday where you saw them, and then you get news that they're not in the world anymore. It's very sad. But it's something that every person has to go through. Death is part of life, and it's something that we all have to deal with.
Yeah, I also have a story of mine. My grandfather on my mom's side was very close to me when I was young, and he passed away when I was like 4 or 5 years old. And some of my memories of him are very foggy, but the days that I do remember, I remember them being the happiest days of my life. But obviously now I'm much older, and I would like to say that I've moved on from that, because obviously death is inevitable, as Siddharth said, it's part of life, and we can just we can be hopeful, and knowing that that person is in a better place, in a better part of his world, is what kind of motivates me to keep going. And eventually everything goes back to normal, but you always carry a part of that person who you've loved in your heart everywhere you go.
ज़्यादा deep हो गया.
That's what she said. I'm tiny Rick.
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
I think सबके लिए ज़्यादा हो गया है अभी.
Yeah.
I think we should sign off.
Okay.
Okay, guys. Thank you for tuning in.
This is the second episode of our podcast, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.